Education and awareness are crucial, but the expense to campaign the world would be substantial. For example, 5 member states in Europe are conducting an awareness campaign on climate change to go on from about 2006 to 2009, and it's going to cost about $11.2 million. The cost of educating the approximate 195 countries in regard to the Great Pacific Garbage Patch would be over $440 million. Recycling programs and incentives have economic barriers for many communities and countries. The cost of building a recycling plant has reached $53.9 million in Palo Alto, California. For recycling programs to be effective, plants must be present, and the cost of such an endeavor is beyond the reach of many communities and countries. Research and development in regards to technology and the breakdown of non-biodegradable materials can be a costly venture. While R&D costs may range from nothing to billions of dollars, most successful companies must reinvest a percentage of profits into the R&D program. Reinvestment in conjunction with the initial startup investment may be an economic barrier to many. Migrating towards biodegradable plastics or alternative materials presents the economic barrier of not only the initial investment, but the R&D investment as well. The loss of income or extinction of those companies who currently produce plastics places an economic barrier and possible hardship on communities who depend on these local plastic companies for jobs. For example, if Berry Plastics, who employs 6,800 people worldwide, were to close or transition over to the production of alternative materials, many people would be facing unemployment. Political barriers can be seen within a country and across nations. James Fallows, correspondent for the Atlantic Monthly, has done extensive research on China's internet and information censorship. Fallows states that many citizens of China use internet cafes, with many oblivious that censorship exists. Additionally, Fallows discusses the United Arab Emirates and Singapore, who use filters to block information to their citizens. This type of information blocking by governments decreases the chances of reaching millions of people and campaigning public education and awareness about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Communication is vital in any relationship, including between countries. Governments, while blocking information from other countries, restricts the sharing of ideas and concepts meant to enhance human life globally. Information restrictions includes recycling programs, technology to break down non-biodegradable material, and the development of methods to produce alternative plastics. The Geneva Convention of 1958 describes the high seas as being those seas open to all nations. Currently, the United States does not belong to the United Nations Convention in regard to the law of the sea. This creates a legal barrier for the United States, as a lack of authority is present to pursue those who pollute the oceans or violate existing laws. Legal barriers would also be present for other countries that wish to reduce the plastic pollution in the oceans. Legal barriers are also seen in regard to technology. As we said earlier, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is an international problem without international laws governing the production and waste management of plastic or the sharing of available technology to produce alternative plastics. Current research has developed biodegradable plastics, and according to Choi in 2007, these new plastics dissolve in seawater in approximately 20 days. Using modified polyurethane, the materials range from hard and rigid to soft and rubbery. Copyright and patent laws prohibit the exchange of technological information unless the companies themselves are willing to share the information. While the barriers presented are viable, one cannot allow these barriers to stop progress towards cleaning up the marine debris. World peace may seem like a cliche answer to a beauty pageant. However, the only way to bypass the barriers presented would be to have world peace with a common goal. The common goal is the interest of the world's population and the health and well-being of all species that inhabit the earth. So let's take a mathematical approach, and when we do, we'll see that the option does not exist to actually ignore this global issue. The size of the patch is estimated to have doubled in the last 10 years. As of 2008, the estimate is 3.5 million tons of trash is floating in the area. By this estimation alone, this means that in only 10 years, 1.25 million tons of trash will have moved into the area. Not taking into account the increased production of plastic per year, the estimation leaves 125,000 tons of trash moving into the gyre every year, which is roughly 10,500 tons of trash per month. 80% of the trash in the gyre comes from the land, meaning that every month 8,400 tons of trash from the land will wash into the ocean and make its way to the garbage patch. An interview with Captain Moore on the Bryant Park Project channel of NPR Internet Radio was interesting in gathering a little more information. Captain Moore found that the trash in the garbage patch takes approximately 6 to 12 months to reach the patch from the eastern coast of Asia, and approximately 5 years to reach the patch from the western coast of the U.S. Taking these calculations and the current mass that is accumulated, Asia currently has 63,000 to 126,000 tons of trash in transit, with an additional 350 tons being added to the ocean daily. From the west, 630,000 tons of trash is in transit to the gyre. These calculations do not take into consideration the amount of increased manufacturing of non-biodegradable plastics. While the question remains on the lips of researchers, marine biologists, scientists, and environmentalists with how can we clean this mess up, the more important question posed by the staggering calculations of existing garbage floating in the ocean is how can we afford to not clean this mess up? While the overall view may seem bleak, hope does exist when faced with the concept of international unity to implement global changes to assist in cleaning up international waters. The Bureau of International Recycling, or the BIR, is currently the only international trade federation that represents the world in recycling items such as ferrous and non-ferrous materials, paper, textiles, plastic, and rubber. Over 800 companies from 70 different countries are represented in the BIR and use the federation as an international means of communicating expertise to other industries and political groups. The federation also offers a means of communication to promote recycling. The BIR spends billions of privately contributed dollars in research, equipment, and technology. This suggests interest exists in the private sector to create a more environmentally safe means of producing and recycling materials. The BIR and affiliated organizations are also responsible for a broad range of legislation that has been put into place across many countries. The legislation pushed by BIR backing includes laws related to the end-of-life vehicles, electronic waste management, and waste shipment regulations. The BIR is also fighting to have legislation in place that recognizes recyclables as a valuable secondary resource for raw materials rather than waste. By changing the definition, the BIR hopes to open international trade to recycled materials. The BIR has worked with the U.S. Institute of Scrap Recycling Industries to smooth the flow of recyclables to China by working with the nation's regulators. By observing the work of the BIR, one can see that while the barriers exist, hope remains in opening up the industry's means of sharing information about recycling and creating a tradable commodity using recycled materials as a secondary raw material. This would increase the need of the secondary raw materials in all countries and facilitate the mandating of recycling in different countries in an attempt to become competitive in the exporting of secondary raw materials. By appealing to the economic successes related to recycling materials, awareness and education about recycling will be placed in the forefront of the average person. Recycling will take place more readily, and the political barriers will become less of a problem in comparison to the economic success of global trading of secondary raw materials. The BIR already has a strong financial support in what the Federation represents. By relating the importance of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch to the industry, rather than seeing the swirling vortex of garbage as a toxic aquatic wasteland, the Federation may see this as an opportunity not only to clean up the world's largest landfill, but as a potential profit in recycling what already exists. The Federation is already spending millions on research and development of more environmentally friendly products, but they also have a vested interest in recycling items that are non-biodegradable. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is not a problem that is on the forefront of the environmental frontier. However, it poses one of the greatest threats to the world. We are creating a toxic island of trash. Do not ignore the importance of cleaning up this mess using methods to help prevent the area from growing larger. And if this presentation did not cause alarm for the Great Pacific Ocean, what if someone told you there were 4 other gyres accumulating trash as fast as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch?